Hi there, it's Kathy with Be Creative with Kathy, and in this video we're going to put together October, try to say that, Stamp Club card packet. So, got your packet in the mail. We're going to start, first of all, this is the third card this month. You can take that out, we don't need that. Enjoy it, hope you need more Christmas cards. But we're going to take out all of this Night of Navy pack, or this side here, and then this piece of cardstock in here. So then the white card base and all the other pieces you can leave in your packet for the next card. We're going to start with this one. Okay, and let me show you the card real quick. It looks like this, and this little jar opens up and it says sending a jar full of cheer, and that's what we're going to do, okay? Then make that card. Let's do all of our stamping first and punching. So on this piece here, well, maybe not all of it, but most of it, we're going to get our jars done for both cards on this strip of basic white. Okay, so we're going to start with Balmy Blue ink. And that jar, because we're going to fit 4 jars across here, and the first one I want one jar to be balmy blue or light blue, whatever you have. So down here close to the edge, so I can fit all 4, I'm going to just stamp my little jar like that. And then the next 3 I want in black. Now you can clean that if you want to. I'm going to say because black ink is darker than blue ink, I'm not going to bother to clean my stamp. I'm just going to go in here. Then I'm going to start in this corner. This just makes sure I can fit 4 of them in there. And I'll set one not too close to the edge, because remember there's a little border with the punch. And then 2, there we go, and 3. Now we have 4 jars ready for our 2 cards. And we are done with the jar stamp, so I'm going to set that aside so it doesn't get ink anywhere. Okay, now let's come in with our embossing buddy. And I'm going to go over all those white jars and the top up here with my embossing buddy to make sure that my embossing powder doesn't stick. Well, that was not good. Did you see me get my paper? Take your time. Go easy. Okay, we need to get that whole thing, that whole side, covered with the embossing buddy powder, I guess you'll call it. Okay, then I'm going to turn my paper over like this. Let me tap that extra powder off of there. There we go. And then with the lid, let me bring in the stamp so I can show you. The lid right here, we're going to stamp 3 of those in Versamark, because now we're going to heat emboss. So find my lid stamp here, and when you're stamping the lid, you want to make sure the knob is up. That's how the punch works. Let's double check that. Yes, like that. Okay, so we're going to stamp 1, and I'm sure you can't see it, but because Versamark is a clear sticky ink, try to say that 100 times, but trust me, it's there. Okay, then I'm going to turn it back over, and on my jar here, for 2 of them, I want to stamp these ornaments here in Versamark. So stamp that down, hanging from the top of the jar. And I'm going to do the same thing to the second jar that's black, like that. And then this wishing you the sweetest Christmas is going to go in the third jar, the third dark jar. And it fits in there just right. Okay, now I'm going to add, hang on, let me close that up and get that out of the way. Bring in my little tray here, and I have gold embossing powder. So I'm going to take that gold embossing powder and then just dump it or sprinkle it, whichever way you want to say it, on those pieces we just stamped, or on those images, that's better, that we just stamped with the Versamark. And since we used our embossing buddy, look, there's just one little spot there. That looks, I'm going to do a little bit more right here. There. Now that looks pretty good. Just tap off the excess. Now when you're going to go put your embossing powder back in, if you have the tray, you know, you just unscrew the cap here, and then you put it over your jar, and then you just dump it back in, which is really convenient. and get all that embossing powder back. And you could take your paintbrush and get the rest. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just wanted to show you how the tray of the embossing tray works. Okay, or I guess it's the tray of the additional embossing elements. I don't know what that kit's called, but anyway, that's how it works. And I'm getting that embossing powder off. Okay, let's heat set this. We're gonna melt all that embossing powder. And you'll see when it goes from like a powder to a shiny gold. This is the fun part of embossing, but we've all embossed before, so you know what it's gonna do. Make sure you get all those little pieces and parts of the ornaments and the lids. So it looks like that. Okay, now we got to stamp this last little jar over here. So I am going to bring in from your packet the white piece. This is for the inside. This one has snowflakes on it and this one has blank. So the basic white for the inside, we're going to stamp on that too. Okay, so where did my black ink go, Harry? Nope. Yeah, here he is. There. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is take the little snowman in there, and I'm just going to stamp him at the corner here for the inside to add some cuteness. Yeah. And then I'm going to stamp him inside this blue jar. Now maybe we should have stamped him before, because now it's kind of warped because of the embossing. Did I get my head in the camera? Sorry about that. But we have our little snowman there. And then, yeah, that's the end of the black. Then, oops, with real red. And this little thing that looks like this is actually the snowman's scarf. And you'll notice that this little piece up here is the hat band. And I've found that if you line that up, it gets the rest lined up pretty well. So I'm going to come in here. My head's probably going to go in the camera because I got to look over the top, and you can see that little swipes of hat band between there. And you just stamp it down and it lines up. It makes it pretty easy to line up. I was kind of shocked with this little stamp, but if you take your time and hover, you get that lined up pretty good. That's not the best. This one's better. Oops, but it looks pretty good. Okay, we're done with that now. And then let's just take some coloring. I'm going to use my dark balmy blue Stampin' Blend and just put a little bit of blue around the bottom. Oh, and I know what other stamping I have to do. Hang on, let me finish coloring my little, just the little bottom of the jar. Well, and while we're at it, let's go ahead and take our Wink of Stella. And where did my, I can't find my Wink of Stella. I'll grab another one out of the cupboard. Here we go. And I'm going to just add a little bit of Wink of Stella on that snow there. And then on the inside, we'll add a little bit right here. That just gives it a nice little sparkle, a little finishing touch. Okay, with my what is this, Timid Tiger, I'm gonna just color that little tiny nose right there. And I use the paintbrush tip because it's really fine. So just get a little bit of color there. And then with some more balmy blue ink and this little snow here, I'm gonna stamp on either side of the little jar snowman here. Now I didn't stamp the snow on the inside, but of course you could. I was probably just a little bit lazy. There we go. Now we have some sparkles. Now let's do some punching. Okay, now the first thing we have to do, because if we punch, and I can't find my punch. Oh, right here. If we punch the jars first, see how it's gonna go up into our lids, and we don't want that. So I'm gonna punch all my lids first. And then come around and do those jars or go on the other side. There we go. Now we have our 4 little jars and only 3 lids, you'll notice. So I'm gonna take this little scrap of blue that's in your kit and that lid again, and I'm gonna stamp it in that Night of Navy ink. And I'm gonna stamp it toward the right side so that I can hold it with my left hand, or hold it with this side to punch it out. So if we have that, and you noticed I didn't bother to clean my stamp, it just had Versamark on it, and Versamark won't hurt your ink pad, so I just didn't bother to clean it, although you could go and clean it. Got this little tab to hold on to punch it out. But anyway, so there you go. Okay, now we have 4 lids and 4 jars. Okay, let's bring back in, oh shoot, we need one more. Dang it, right here, again with that Night of Navy. And I'm gonna take this, and notice I said I didn't clean it. It only has Versamark on there, and Versamark won't hurt your ink pad. So this way I can stamp twice and clean once, which is right up my alley. Okay, there, now we have the inside done. Okay, now we're almost done stamping, but we need to put, I got ink on my thumb, some stuff together first. So let's do that real quick. Clean up a little bit. Bring in those other pieces of the packet. Okay, there's our string. These 2 pieces, really these 3 are what we're gonna do next. So this, in case you're wondering, is I die cut this from the, and I had it, here it is. What dies are these? This great big piece here, and these are the Light and Wonder dies. That's where I got this piece from. And we're gonna have to punch out those little bits and pieces from die cutting. They should come right out. Mine did, so yours should too. That, dump that in the trash. Okay, so we want to look, let me bring in the sample card again. If I could, here we go, if I could find it. Okay, so we want it to look, well, it's not cooperating. There, as soon as okay, we want it to look like this, right? So we want this piece is gonna be glued onto here. And I would say you want to make sure you cover like this center right here when you glue them together. They should be the same length. We're going to have to cut them down because they're a little bit longer than this piece here. But I'm going to go ahead and glue this to this first. So I'm going to just take a little bit of liquid glue and I put it in my precision tip so I get a little fine line, and just a little bit of glue right there along the top. And then set that just right on here, because I'm going to put my jar right here. So if the center doesn't look perfect, that's okay, because my jar is going to cover it up, and it looks like that. And what is this right here? I wonder if that's ink, which my jar is going to cover it, but let's see. No, it must be ink, but my jar is going to come. I'm going to worry about that either. Well, I wasn't, but I did, so okay, let's move on. So with my silicone mat and a little bit of glue, I'm going to put a little bit of glue here in the corner. I don't know if you notice my silicone mat is dirty. I should have cleaned it before, but it'll be okay. I have a clean spot over here. And I'm going to turn this over, and with my sponge, pick up that glue and just put glue along the top, because I want to make sure these trees here at the top are stuck down pretty good. And if you dab it with glue like this, then you get glue where you want it. And then put this aside so we don't get our fingers in that. And then down here, I'll just put a strip of glue here and down here. Maybe a little on the sides. Okay, then we're gonna add this to the front of our card, so it looks something like that. Okay, then I'm just gonna turn it over, and using my long scissors, I'm gonna just trim it to size. There we go. Now we have the front of our card. Simple, right? Okay, let's go ahead and add this to our card base. Use my bone folder, get a nice fold there. Just put some tape runner on the back of this. So someone, and I ran out of tape. Darn, here we go, this one's almost full. Asked me about the snowflake paper. That's what this is here. So if you want to see the snowflake paper in person, there you go. You got a sample of it on your card this month. Falling snow, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the resist paper. So it's embossed already on with those little snowflakes. Yeah, there you can see it. Okay, let's finish up our jar. So we have our jar here. We have one more piece of paper. Well, you know why we have this? Let's just throw this inside. That way I won't lose it and I won't say, where did I do with it? Where's it at? I'll know where it's at. It's on the inside. There we go. Okay, so now we need to take this little piece and we're gonna stamp on it, and then we're gonna attach the lid to this. Okay, so we're gonna get this long stamp on that little strip by using masking and masking tape, okay, or Scotch tape, excuse me. So there again, I have Night and Navy ink, and I'm only gonna ink up the sending. And I'm gonna just be careful not to get any ink on that A, just the sending. Like I wanna leave room at the top for my lid. So I'm gonna come down just a little bit and do sending right there in the center. Ta-da! Not very centered, but it'll work. And then I'm gonna ink up sending a jar, making sure I don't get any ink on the F, and then I'm gonna cover up that sending because we've already stamped that. And then I'm gonna try to get a jar centered here pretty close. So now it looks like that. Take that tape off again. This is a little tedious, but it's well worth it, I think. Now we're gonna ink up everything but cheer. So we're sending a jar full of, like this, and then we're gonna cover sending a jar so that way we have full of in there. That's gonna show on our paper. This isn't, because we're gonna cover it up. And we're gonna stamp that down. There we go. Now we're gonna ink up cheer. And we're gonna cover everything with tape. Now you could stop and wash your stamp between all this stamping, but I find it easier just to mask it off. I think we've talked about that I don't like to clean, so I'll stamp 3 times and then clean rather than clean and stamp and clean and stamp. But that's what your little piece is gonna look like there. That's gonna be pulled out of your jar. Okay, we're gonna take this right here. I'm gonna put just a little bit of liquid glue at the top of that white paper we just stamped on. And just set that right there. Okay, now once we have that so it's set pretty good, we need to look at our jar. Now, if you put the jar on and you see you have this little white like border, I don't like that with my jar. I'm gonna cut that off. So I'm gonna just take a pair of paper snips here and fussy cut really close to that blue line of the jar. And then I have something that looks like that instead. Okay. Now, when we put our jar in there, it kind of looks like the lid is on the jar. Okay, so now we're gonna position it where we want it. I'm gonna move my lid over just a little bit and turn it over like this. And then with my dimensionals, which should be right here, yes, here they are, I'm gonna take the edge of my dimensionals. Now I cover mine in packing tape, so this is a little tedious, but I want the sides of my dimensionals. And I'm gonna take, I think it's like 3 bumps here. Does that make sense? On that skinny side, and 3 bumps again, and then let's say 2. And I'm gonna peel those dimensionals off. Maybe. And now I'm gonna stick the straight edge of my dimensional, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. When I show you when it's on there, it'll make more sense. So hang on, let me get it on there. I'm having trouble getting it off my sheet. There we go. I'm gonna take the straight edge of my dimensional and put it next to my cardstock here, this little white piece, and this is what's gonna kind of create the pocket for your white piece to go in and out of your card, or of your jar. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side here. Take this piece and put the straight edge next to the cardstock. And hang on, I'll lift it up in just a second so you can see what I did. And then one more piece. Now this is going to be the stopper at the bottom. I don't think it would go all the way through, but I don't want to take the chance. So it looks like this. So I have my little white piece in there, see? And that's kind of like a little pocket to hold it in there. Okay, and it's still where I want it. So let's bring back in that card, and then we're gonna put this right here on the front. Just like that. Now, if you notice, see how when you do this, it falls out? I've discovered, I don't know where I've discovered or how I discovered, if you take a dimensional, now these are mini dimensionals, and these, I'm not gonna take the backing off of the dimensional, right? This is a mini. I'm gonna put it up here at the top and just leave that backing on. And now when you slide it in there, it isn't flat and it doesn't fall out. Whoop, it still falls out. I guess I lied about that one. My other card, it didn't fall out. That was funny. But it stays in a lot better. I don't know if you can get it in that pocket. There we go. Maybe my pocket's not pushed down good enough. Nope, that was it. And it goes like that. Okay, that was good. Do as I say and not as I do. Okay, with our little piece of string, we're just gonna tie a simple bow. We're gonna just tie a simple bow. Let's see how many times I have to say that before my fingers work. And I tie a simple bow. Well, tie a simple bow, that's 3. Are we counting? Terrible. There we go. Just don't think about it, just do it and it works. Get our little knots even, our little bow even here. Our loops, what are those called? There we go. Then I'm gonna just trim off the excess here. And then with the mini glue dot, I'm gonna fold it in half. Okay, now I can, oh, here, that everything is right in front of me, just not where I think it should be. We're gonna take a mini glue dot and fold it in half. And then just set it here at the top of our jar and stick our little bow on there. And look how cute. So they open it, they pull it here, sending a jar full of cheer. That goes back in the little pocket. And as you play with it, the more you open it and put it back in, all right, he's not going back in right now. The easier it is to get it in there. And then you have your inside. Now, I did suggest that you get, and of course I'm gonna say, where are they? Because they're not right here. I thought they were. My bling, my little blue, the little blue bling. Oh, brother. I have too much stuff on my desk. And my bling. Okay, so when it shows up, we'll put the bling on both cards because I know it's somewhere here on my desk. Okay, so set that aside. Let's go ahead and make card 2. Now card 2 will go much faster because we've done most of the stamping already. So bring in those pieces and parts. The white card base, the gold foil paper, the designer series paper, and the baker's twine. Now this baker's twine, I have to tell you, I think it ties really nice bows. I really like this baker twine. It's got that gold in it that makes it a little bit more firm, and it's an online exclusive. So if you're looking for that, that's where you'll find it. Okay, I just want to test, make sure I cut my paper right. I'm gonna layer this designer series paper onto the gold, and hopefully that brings out that little bit of gold in the designer series paper. Looks like that. Now, before we add this to our card base, I'm going to turn my card base so the bump is up. And this card base, I have to do it the other way because, nope, I think I got it off. There, it's good. Okay, the bump is up, and we're going to stamp on the inside before we fold it. It's just easier when the card is flat. Okay, so this has Night of Navy. I'm going to go ahead and clean it this time because we're going to use this again, and I'm going to mask, and I want to make sure it's nice and clean for when we're masking on this part, on the inside of our card. Okay, so we're going to start. This time, we're going to do, let's see for sure. I didn't show you the card either. Yeah, we're going to do sending A and then stamp, then mask the other part. And I'm looking again for my black ink. Here it is. So sending A. Is that what I said? Sending A. Yep. Sending A. Right here in the center. Sending A. And then I'm going to do jar full of cheer. And I'm going to cover up that sending A. Now, you also could just cut your stamp apart, and then it's photopolymer, so you can see if you need to put it back together, you could put it back together, but I already talked about the fact that I'm a lazy stamper, and I just like to mask. Okay, there we have our inside. The only thing I want to do here is I want to add one of these cute, look at how cute and adorable these little bows are. So again, I'm going to use my embossing buddy. And I'm going to just stamp a little bow right there in Versamark and bring that gold from the front into the inside of our card. Look, a little bow just like that. Ta-da! And then, let's see if I left enough in my tray. I might have enough embossing powder in my tray that I can just scoop it up. Oh, it's going to be close. There, that got the embossing powder. Yeah. Oh, it's so close. Good enough. I suggest you do this embossing when you do the other embossing so you don't chintz like I did, and you get a little bit more embossing powder on your little bow. But I think he's going to look cute. Anyway, yes, look here. I missed a little spot. Yes, he does. Looky there. Isn't that cute, that little bow in the inside with the gold? Okay, now we can fold this. And go ahead and attach our designer series paper layer to there. Get the gold embossing powder off. Find my tape. Add this to the front. And then bring in our little jars. I'm going to add the lids by just putting a little bit of liquid glue along the top of the jar here. And we have our little crooked. There, now it's straight, our little jar. There we go. And then with dimensionals on the back of all three of them. I'm going to use the top dimensional, kind of hold that lid on too, just because. Okay, one more dimensional. They did not cooperate, did they? Done. Okay, then I'm going to start with my words and put it over here to the right. Try to get it centered. And then I'm going to tuck my other little jar underneath there. Like that. And then this one over here. There we go. Now, what you can do is you can just take a bow, right, from our black string, and you can just add a bow like there. Now, if you saw my third card that you had in your kit, let me show it to you again. You could do something like this kind of bow instead of that black thread. And let me just show you quickly what you can do. So you take your linen thread. This is the one that has the gold through it. It's black and gold. Comes in a package of black and white, both with the gold through it. Really pretty stuff. And I'm going to just make a bow, and I'm going to pull it. Hang on to make my bow. Doesn't matter if it's even, but I'm going to make sure I pull it really tight. So I'm trying to get my finger in that loop. There we go. And just pull really tight so I know that's not going to come out. Okay. Then I'm going to take my ribbon scissors here, and I'm going to trim that loop and trim this loop like that. And then using my Take a Pick tool, that pokey end, I'm going to just, well, wait, first what I got to do is unravel it. So I'm going to twist it backwards and get all of that gold untwisted from the black. Now, if you don't like tying bows, right, and you're always trying to have trouble getting your bows perfect and they just frustrate you, this might be another option. Plus, I think this has a little bit less bulk than bows. So if you're mailing out a bunch of them and you don't want to pay extra postage, I think this lays a little bit flatter than a bow does. And it's just a little bit different. It still has that gold and makes it look really pretty. Okay, so I got, whoop, this one went crazy over here. Okay, so there. Then I'm going to use my pokey tool, and I'm going to just unravel it completely. And I can just run my the point of my tool and get through the center of that thread and unravel all of those. This might look really cute on a witch's hat if you're, now it looks like witch's hair. If you need a little bit of witch's hair, that would be perfect, this black and gold. Now that I said that, that's all I'm going to be able to see on my Christmas card is witch's hair, but I hope not. I hope that's not what you see either. Okay. It does take probably a little bit more time than tying bows, although some of us struggle with bows. This might be easier. I don't know. Just another option. Okay, I almost got that gold out of there. There we go. Then you cut it so that they're all even. And I just take my finger and kind of hold it flat where I want it. Whoop, I want my ribbon scissors. And then just trim it like that. Whoop, I missed one little gold strand. There we go. and then come back and figure out the same length over here. And there you go. You have a pretty little different kind of bow that we're gonna put on the top of our jar right here. So again, I'm gonna take that glue dot and fold it in half. And then set that down there. And then here, if you didn't get them straight, or if you think they need to be trimmed along the sides, you could trim them again. But there you go, there's my card. In fact, I think they're a little long, so I'm gonna trim just a little bit off. There we go. There you go. So there's our cards for October. Let me clean up a little bit and I'll bring them both in. I have to tell you, there's going to be some major changes to Club effective January 1st. So I would really appreciate it if you would save the date and come to the Club Zoom meeting on November 21st, so you don't miss out on the changes that are going to be happening at Club. Again, so we'll have our Zoom meeting on November 21st. And we'll talk about the changes of Club there. And it'll probably be 7 p.m. and that's a Friday night. All right, if you have any questions, be sure and let me know. Hope you like the cards this month, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye-bye.